A sigh of relief and a good news for flyers as the year begins. Budget airline Indigo has waived off the fuel charges, citing a drop in the ATF prices. With the recent reduction in ATF prices, Indigo is withdrawing the charges starting today. Fuel charge had been introduced in October 2023 following a surge in the aviation turbine fuel or the ATF prices. Jet fuel or ATF price was reduced thrice in 3 consecutive months. Previously, the ATF price was cut by almost 6% in November and by 4.6% in December.
इससे आम जनता डायरेक्ट इफेक्ट करी यानी कि उनको बहुत फायदा होगा। अब अयोध्या का जो सपना है वो हर कोई पूरा कर सकता है जाने का, जैसे कि श्रीराम इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट भी शुरू हो गया है कुछ 31 से। तो बेसिकली ये जो 115 करोड़ जो लोग हैं देशवासी, ये डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट होगा उनको कि एयरलाइंस वाया एयरलाइंस डायरेक्ट कहाँ भी लैंड होने के लिए और विदाउट फ्यूल चार्जेस, दैट इज।
All right, two very important news came in from the aviation industry today. Let's tell you about the first one. The government is considering amendments to regulations governing the procedure for breath analyzer examination of the personnel involved in aircraft maintenance and ground handling. The DGCA aims to revise the existing guidelines for the breath analyzer examination. Among the proposed changes, here are a few. That is to increase the minimum individuals to be breath analyzed from 10% currently to 25%. To mandate that fuel cell technology-based breath analyzers be required. The calibration agencies have been brought under the purview of the civil aviation rules. And the wait time for a repeat test be increased from current 15 to 20 minutes to 20 to 25 minutes. The last date for submission of the comments to the DGCA is the 2nd of February this year.
In a move to enhance and improve the aviation safety, DGCA, the aviation regulator, intends to modify or amend the civil aviation requirement norms regarding the breath analyzer examination for the personnel engaged in multiple services like the aircraft maintenance, the ground handling services. And in the same direction, the process has been initiated, the draft has been floated by the DGCA and public suggestions has been invited. So this entire move is in the direction that what the procedure for the breath analyzer examination, it is related to the personnel engaged in the aircraft maintenance and also related to the air traffic control services. It will also include the ground handling services. So the entire move is to detect the consumption of alcohol. And for the same, the breath analyzer examination is being conducted by DGCA. So the proposed norms that the DGCA has suggested, it includes that to increase the minimum individuals to be breath analyzed to 25%, which is currently at 10%, and it has to be increased to 25%. So this is the first such proposal that has been moved in by DGCA. Similarly, to mandate that the fuel cell technology based breath analyzer to be required. That is another proposal. Calibration and agencies have been brought under the purview of CAR or the civil aviation requirement. And the wait time for a repeat test is intended to be increased from 15 to 20 minutes.
All right, now for the second news from the aviation sector that came in. This one's a shocking one, actually. When Delhi was at its foggiest worst on Christmas Day just a few days back and almost 86% Delhi-bound flights were diverted, passengers did not complain beyond a point, thinking it's the fog. But the DGCA's show-cause notice to 2 airlines reveals the actual reason. Turns out, on days that were predicted to be the foggiest, airlines rostered in pilots who were untrained to land in fog conditions. And that is why a lot of the flights did not land, also, of course, risking the lives of passengers. All right, to talk about both these news that came in from the aviation industry today, I'm joined by Mr. Parvez Damania, aviation expert on the broadcast. Mr. Damania, good evening. Namaskar. Thank you very much for joining us on Mirror Now. First of all, Mr. Damania, let me understand from you the new guidelines regarding the breath analyzer examination that the government aims to bring in. There are a few proposals that the government does intend to, that the DGCA does intend to bring in. But this is specifically for personnel who are handling the aircraft, the ground personnel who are working on it. Why was it felt that these guidelines need to be stricter, that these norms need to be stricter?
See, at one time, only the pilots and air hostesses were subject to the tests. The other people who were working with the aircrafts were not subject to these tests. Now, like for example, there are people who taxi the aircraft, who are not pilots, but they are allowed to taxi the aircraft. They were also not brought under this regulation. With this new bill passing, all those people will be brought under the regulation. As it is, all pilots and air hostesses are mandatorily tested on the first flight when they start flying. Now, all other personnel who come near the aircraft or work with the aircraft will have to be tested. I think this regulation is very positive and a very required amendment for the safety of the aircraft and the passengers in turn indirectly. And I'm sure the consumers will support it and it will be passed. If you remember right, the government recently passed a regulation saying all pilots and flying crew cannot use mouthwash or gel or anything that contains alcohol. So all these are very positive steps that the government is taking to ensure higher safety standards for the traveling public. So I think it's a very positive steps in the right direction.
Okay, Mr. Damania, this of course still needs to be finalized. These are still in the proposal stage, but one of the proposals is that calibration agencies be brought under the purview of the civil aviation rules. Help us understand what this really means for the benefit of our viewers. Just simplify this for us, and how much of these proposals are possible to be implemented smoothly?
No, I think none of these proposals are that complicating or require some very high amount of technology or investment. All these can be implemented very easily. And with the cooperation of the airline and the doctors and the support staff, all these can be brought about. There is no major investment or major technology required, just that the regulations are made more stricter to have higher safety standards. So I don't think there is any reason, or I don't think anybody should object. Even the pilots, air hostesses, and the working crew, if they know the rules and regulations that they're not supposed to consume alcohol for a certain number of hours, and if they're following the rules, nobody need to worry. I think this is a very standard thing and could have been brought about earlier, and it's good that the government is bringing it about now. So I think it means that now everything will be brought under the purview of the government, and the government can take steps, whatever required. And I think it will be a stricter norm. The government will be able to take stricter actions against anybody whose body has alcohol in it.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Damania, let me also talk about the second news that came in from the aviation sector today, and in fact left a lot of us shocked. That of untrained pilots being rostered in on days when Delhi sees, in fact, not just Delhi, but in the entire northern India sees very heavy fog days. This is during the Christmas time, and of course, these days also. But how do airlines roster in untrained pilots and expect them to land, risking the lives of so many passengers?
Just a small minor correction. They were not untrained pilots. They were trained pilots. They were not trained for Cat 3 category. That is what it is. Now, 86%
which is what is surprising, Mr. Damania, that
very bad.
When you know that the entire northern India, specifically Delhi, has such heavy foggy days, then why would you not put pilots who are trained in that specific category?
The DGCA rule says that 10th December to 10th February is the fog season. So I think the airlines could have planned it better and made sure all the pilots flying in North India were Cat 3 trained, so this diversion problem could have been reduced. And first and foremost, no airline wants its aircraft diverted because it causes a huge amount of inconvenience and loss to the passengers. What I think could have been done, the DGCA could have, now DGCA sent a show cause notice to these two airlines to give an explanation. It would have been rather better if DGCA had, before the start of the fog season, called the airlines and discuss with them these issues and how they are doing it and what is their plan and how many Cat 3 pilots are going to be flying in North India, and see that maximum pilots flying are trained on this Category 3 aircraft. So it would have been better if DGCA had acted before than DGCA acting later. Now, why the airlines, I'm sure there must have been some restrictions or some issues with the airline. See, you have to remember that the aviation industry is growing very, very fast in India. And there's always a shortage of pilots. Always the airlines are tight for pilots. So maybe they didn't have enough Cat 3 trained pilots which they could have put in North India to avoid this problem. I'm sure the airlines are doing their best to sort this issue out. And let's see what explanation they give to the DGCA. And I think once the explanation comes to DGCA, maybe we'll understand the explanation, then explore it further. What is the reason behind their rationale to do this, or the irrational reason to do this?
Okay. Okay, but you're saying, Mr. Damania, that perhaps the lack of an adequate number of trained pilots in that Cat 3 category could be one of the reasons, which is also very,
Correct.
very concerning,
Correct.
considering the fact that
That
it does
is
put
the reason.
The lives of
That
passengers
is the reason,
at
actually.
risk.
No, it doesn't put the lives of passengers at risk, but it definitely causes a tremendous amount of inconvenience to passenger. If I have to reach Delhi at a certain time and my flight gets diverted to Jaipur, my whole schedule and whole plan goes for a toss. So it causes a huge amount of inconvenience to passengers, but do also remember that it causes a huge amount of loss and problems for the airline as well. So I don't think it was a deliberate move by any airline. It was just a lack of planning, and it could have been planned better to avoid these situations. The airlines are fully aware of the fog season. Like I said, 10th December to 10th February is regulated and announced by the DGCA as the fog season in Delhi. So knowing this in mind and knowing the dates in mind, and believe it or not, around 25th December every year this problem has been occurring. So it just could have been planned better, and they could have seen or maybe transferred the pilots who are based in other centers of theirs to Delhi and transfer the pilots from there to there. It's just a matter of time. For these few months of this particular time, they could have planned it better. So I'm shocked that why didn't they do it better, because it is equally as bad for the passenger as it's for the airline.
All right, we'll leave it there. Mr. Parvez Damania, thank you very much for joining us on Mirror Now and helping us understand this situation a bit better. Thank you very much.